Congress has called the bill draconian, but for the BJP it remains the need of the hour. While the debate over necessity and abuse rages on, the big question is whether the opposition will let the law pass or not. Is it a political issue or is it a question of legality at the end of the day? We filed a story. Here are the pros and cons.
You want this country not to look like an ISIS country.
An open endorsement for Gujarat's new anti-terror law has kick-started a massive political face-off. While for the BJP, a stringent anti-terror law is the need of the hour, the opposition has termed it draconian.
If it is more in abuse and does disservice, it has no place in our system.
If all is so good in Gujarat, law and order situation is so good, well in Gujarat, why do they need one more law?
Giving the maximum, these rights to the police custody interrogation, it will amount to the police state.
The opposition to the bill boils down to three key provisions. First, that it empower police to tap phones of the suspects. Second is the fact that it allows confession to police admissible in court. And finally, an extension in custody of suspects to 30 days. Even the legal luminaries are divided over the need for such an act.
The situation in Gujarat is quite normal. And it does not need the kind of law that has been made where you have given dramatic powers to the police.
It's a purely political controversy. Legally, there are those who have had misgivings about TADA, about POTA, about MCOCA.
The civil society believes that such legislation threatens civil liberties.
Well, if the national interest is compromised because of the bipartisan politics, which happens in our country all the time, then certainly it is dangerous for the country. But at the same time, I would say giving more power to the police through such acts is not going to be helpful.
Similar bills have been returned twice by the president, and the opposition hopes that the trend will continue. But the big question is, are the protests against the bill only political, or is there some merit in the attack on the freedom argument? Bureau Report, NewsX.
Joining us right now, Professor Madhav Nalpat, Editorial Director, Sunday Guardian. Harish Salve joins us, former Solicitor General of India as well. Jaiveer Shergill, spokesperson, Congress Party, will also be on the panel. KTS Tulsi, MP, Rajya Sabha. Jainarayan Vyas, senior leader of the BJP, also with us tonight. Many thanks all of you for being here. I'd like to start with Mr. Salve, if I could. Before I go to Professor Nalpat, Mr. Salve, we spoke in the afternoon as well. The question really is, let me get straight to the point. Is this bill draconian in your view? Any more draconian than previous laws like TADA or POTA? I mean, this is the defense by Arun Jaitley is along those lines. Where does India really draw the line between security, national security, and basic human right?
Well, we've been asking this question when different governments, Congress and NDA, brought the law. And there is a cleavage of opinion, especially on these 2 or 3 provisions. One is confessions made to the police. The extended time for filing a charge sheet is not that severe a change. The provision regarding bail also has been there forever. It's there in the narcotics law. And someday, see, so many convictions have taken place. Sanjay Dutt's conviction was charged initially under this law, and his ultimate conviction was upheld under this law, although he was not charged. And the Supreme Court said, yes, even if you charge somebody under POTA and that is not proved, you can convict them under the provision of confessions to police officers. So all this has been going on for quite some time. What I don't understand is this fuss about Gujarat.
Okay, so you don't understand why it is a very Gujarat-centric opposition, and that's the question I asked earlier as well. Professor Nalpat, is the hullabaloo mainly because it comes with a state that has some amount of baggage as far as tackling terrorism is concerned?
The fact is that if you look at Maharashtra, if you look at Andhra, you look at several states, there have been encounter deaths in all these states. I don't have the figures with me, but I think Maharashtra you have a very large number of encounter deaths. And I'd also like to say that in Maharashtra, there was a severe problem of gangs from Dubai, etc., active in India. And that problem was mitigated to a significant extent after a lot of activity took place between the police and these gangsters. So there's some justification for this kind of a law, and it's not just Gujarat. The point of the matter is that an anti-terror law is very important, but I think the problem here is a mixing of terrorism with other forms of criminality. I think the two are entirely separate, and the laws need to be entirely separate.
And this law needs to reflect that then, doesn't it? I mean, the main criticism coming here, of course, are about singular salient features which many people have said are too draconian. We'll discuss that in detail in just a couple of moments. Jairam Vyas also joins us, as does KTS Tulsi and Javeer Shergill. Mr. Shergill, why such a hue and cry about this particular bill when very clearly, as the finance minister has said, the Congress party in Congress-ruled states passed very similar bills? Doesn't that make your opposition merely rhetorical?
I think your answer is, your question is well answered in the judgment of PUCL versus Union of India, when the constitutional validity of POTA was being answered, and it was in fact upheld. And the court very categorically said, look, nobody is questioning the competence of the Gujarat government to enact such a legislation. The question is twofold: whether is there a situation in Gujarat which warrants this? Number two, whether the existing laws are insufficient to deal with such a situation. Now, as for statistically, I'm very sure Gujarat is not going through a very worrisome or a troubled period. They need this. Second, the Unlawful Activity Prevention Act, which is a central law, Chapter 4 completely deals with terrorist activities, organization, evidence through interception of communication. So what is the rationale? They have to point out the insufficiencies in the Unlawful Activity Prevention Act. Secondly, any weapon can be used to protect or promote peace or to create havoc in the name of peace. I ask everybody, can Gujarat government be trusted with this? Fake encounter.
So you're saying that Gujarat government can't be trusted,
regarding Gaikwad, Haveli police station,
draconian laws. Mr. Shergill,
no, Gaikwad
point that out.
Look at the rationale.
Let's say you are saying that only a BJP government, a Nandiben Patel government will misuse it. What are the chances of Congress-ruled states misusing it? Isn't that a facetious argument?
Let's test your argument on its own. Now the rationale is Maharashtra has Makoka, Gujarat is border state. I'm sorry, in this country a law cannot be extended to another state because one state has that law. Punjab, Rajasthan are also border states, so that border argument also goes. Thirdly, Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee returned this bill and asked for major changes. Okay, you want to doubt Congress? Please doubt Congress.
Okay, I'll give you, there is some
legal advice. Why that advice was not adhered to in the new bill?
I'll give you that. Two previous presidents, two previous presidents, APJ Abdul Kalam, who was a president in the NDA regime, and also Pratibha Devi Singh Patil, who was a president in the UPA regime. Both of them returned this bill. It was deemed, some provisions were deemed perhaps too draconian. It's been returned by two presidents, Mr. Salve. Before I come to Mr. Tulsi and Mr. Vyas, and Mr. Vyas, you've heard the criticism here. In fact, let's go to Mr. Vyas first, then we go to Mr. Salve. Does Gujarat really need a tougher anti-terror law? Aren't the laws currently in place capable enough of handling the very successful the state Gujarat is right now? What is the need of it at this hour is what the Congress is asking. How do you respond to that, Mr. Vyas?
So let's first look at the major point they are making, that two presidents returned this bill earlier. Now, if it is the time of Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee, as it is being quoted, you know, it will be prudent to know the reason why it was written. It was, the Makoka was just claimed. Maharashtra, it was, the section 14, 15 and 16 of this act were challenged in Maharashtra High Court. Maharashtra High Court ruled that this is unconstitutional. And therefore, at that time, with this background, this was required to be examined with background of the judgment given by the Maharashtra High Court, Bombay High Court. Subsequent to that, Maharashtra government went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court has struck down the judgment given by the High Court of Maharashtra, that is Bombay High Court. Now, that background doesn't remain.
No, but there is this pattern, sir, you'll have to admit.
Was looking at it is different.
Mr. Vyas, I think you'll be big enough to admit that there's a pattern here, whether it be TADA, whether it be POTA. Ultimately, when it came to the test of jurisprudence in this country, the Supreme Court struck POTA down. The Supreme Court struck these laws down, saying
was looking at it is different.
Mr. Vyas, I think you'll be big enough to admit that there's a pattern here, whether it be TADA, whether it be POTA. Ultimately, when it came to the test of jurisprudence in this country, the Supreme Court struck POTA down. The Supreme Court struck these laws down, saying they impinge upon human rights of an individual. KTS Tulsi will try and highlight what the Supreme Court saw in these past two previous cases, and how there is a similarity, if at all, between the new Gujarat anti-terror bill and previous terror bills that perhaps haven't worked in the respected views of the highest courts of our country. Do you think, sir, Mr. Tulsi, that the national security, national interest argument works? Because there are countries in this world who have even far more overreaching laws than this current Gujarat bill we are discussing.
No. I don't think there can be anything more drastic than this. But what I want to say is that in 1984, 85 and 87, the TADA was enacted. And at that time, Punjab was facing the height of terrorism. At that time, I was prosecutor in Punjab, prosecuting the terrorists. And later, I also defended TADA in the Supreme Court. And in Kartar Singh's case, the TADA was upheld. The TADA was upheld because in the extraordinary situation that was prevailing, the only way of investigation was for the police officers to record confessions, and this was upheld after, in spite of strong opposition from the other side. But even then, even when the Supreme Court upheld, TADA was allowed to lapse only because there were thousands of persons who had been detained in Gujarat under TADA. Even when they terrorist, there's nothing terrorist act.
So you're saying that's where the misuse is liable. But my point is,
that's why there was gross abuse of TADA.
No, I understand that the misgivings really, of course, we all understand that this is liable to misuse.
My opposition...
Mr. Jaitley, of course, is referring to something else. And it's important to highlight what Mr. Jaitley is trying to say. He is linking it very clearly, Mr. Tulsi, with national security and national interest. Now, where does one draw the line, really? I mean, are we the kind of democracy which believes that, let's take the Patriot Act, for example. I mean, the US at the time justified it. In their own country, of course, people justified the move, and then, of course, they realized the Patriot Act overreached, perhaps, to all sections of society. Where does India draw the line, having seen and experienced laws like TADA, Pota, Makoka, and Gujkoka, what have you? Where do we draw the line? Is there a need for a tougher anti-terror law, and why don't you agree with it? What specifically? Is it the confession? Is it the wiretapping?
No.
Is it the admissible evidence in court? What exactly is it?
Yes. No. Yes. My opposition to this law is with regard to Section 14, which gives power to any police officer, any police, to intercept without any permission from anyone else. Now, this is, in my view, completely unconstitutional, because a telephone is now an integral part of anybody's personality, and we'll turn ourselves into a police state if we give power to the police to intercept. That means he can enter my mind, he can enter my pocket all the time. I have no freedom left. We won't be able to call ourselves a free country. And there is no extraordinary situation which would warrant this kind of a law.
What about
if we were at war with someone, if there was an internal insurgency in a particular area?
No, Mr. Tulsi, let me ask Professor Nalpat, of course, about what about
we can't
external
allow the police to get into our telephones.
No, two ministers. There's this argument, Professor Nalpat, about perhaps overreach and intruding upon personal lives of private citizens. What weighs heavier right now? I mean, on the minds of people who run the country, where do you say national security ends and rights start? That's a very thin line, really. But one has to be calibrated when you're approaching this, because it's a very sensitive subject, as has been described by Mr. Jaitley and Mr. Rudy.
Well, Athar, I'd like to say that from the point of view of national security, there is really need, in my view, for a national law on terrorism, because terror is not something that is state related. Terror is not specific to one state, nor are there terrorist groups operating in India that are really state specific. They operate across the country. So there is need for a national law. But my point is that this law has to be very clearly restricted to acts of terrorism.
But how does one make sure that happens? Because past experience would say it's always viable to loopholes.
Well, if we're going back to Gujarat, for example, there was a chief minister called Chimanbhai Patel, and I well remember that several people were used to claim that Mr. Patel used to arrest people. The same thing happened in Maharashtra.
Under these laws meant for something
many
else.
politicians arrested dozens of people, and quite frankly, they, in a sense, blackmailed them, and they got released only after the blackmail was paid. This happened in both Maharashtra and Gujarat. So it's very important to ensure that the provisions of the law are such that only affect terror. And secondly, any misuse of the law should be should lead to draconian action on the part of the policeman who is misusing the law.
Is that possible though, Javeer Shergill? Is that possible at all with a law like this, which has provisions like, and let me tell you what the provisions are: confessions before police officers, first confessions are admissible in court, extension of the period of investigation up to 180 days, evidence collected through interception. This is important. Interception of wire, electronic or oral communication will be admissible in court. The devil, Javeer, is in the details, and you'd agree with me there.
Atar, absolutely, and let's be very clear, subject to what Mr. Tulsi says and Mr. Salve say, there is a law in this country which deals with terrorist activities. There is an act called the Unlawful Activity Prevention Act. Entire 20 sections are dedicated to it. It deals with terrorist organizations. It gives a schedule of terrorist organization, terrorist acts. It deals with the bail, like this is sought. It deals with evidence through interception by a competent authority. So there is a complete code with safeguards which are not there in the Gujarat bill. Gujarat bill is basically a license to snoop, license to arrest under a valid law which the Gujarat government wants to do. I haven't heard any of the
political argument, sir.
spokesperson of
Mr.
BJP
Vyas, come in here.
No,
that's a political argument you're giving, sir.
I haven't
You are
heard
giving
any
a,
from
and
the
this is what I'm going to
BJP
ask Mr.
say-
Salve also.
No,
Your
no.
line is political. The problem
Atar,
perhaps is
legally-
jurisprudence. I'm coming to you,
Atar,
Mr.
legally,
Shergill.
just-
Can we have Mr.
just-
Shergill and Mr. Vyas now?
just give me
Mr.
10
Vyas, this is a
seconds.
political argument.
Just
Yes.
give me 10 seconds. Can Mr. Vyas point out what is the deficiency in the central law,
No,
Unlawful
Atar.
Activity Prevention Act, which does not deal with Gujarat? Please highlight the problems.
Okay, Mr. Vyas, is the Congress's opposition merely rhetorical and
Atar,
based in political
Atar,
motive?
in the
Yes.
first, absolutely rhetorical, because if at all in Gujarat, if somebody has misused the POTA or even the Prevention of Black PBM, Prevention of Black Marketing Act, it was rampantly misused by Congress. They have got no business to talk on this. The minister, which was chief minister, whose name was mentioned by Professor Nalpat, again belonged to them, and that is what he is infamous for. So I think, let us understand that, you know, you are talking about Indian Post and Telegraph Act 1885. Now the technology, if you refer to the technological developments, as Alvin Toffler has said, that technology will invade every walk of life. Those who adopt to it shall prosper, those who do not shall disappear like dinosaurs. So crime also is going to become highly technical, and technology has to be used to detect that. And to that extent, I think any means of communication, be it electronic or otherwise, has to be under surveillance and shall be under surveillance. If at all, when the terrorists are using the most sophisticated of the equipments to communicate with each other, I think Gujarat is, the Punjab's example was given, yes, it is a border state, but then you are forgetting that Gujarat has 1/3 of the coastline of the country.
Okay,
and that is really the point from
Mr.
where
Vyas,
twice
let
the
me tell you a
terrorists
couple of
entered
other
and went
voices
to
here.
Bombay.
Javeer, I know you want to respond to this. Before I get Professor Nalpat in, just one question to Mr. Salve. Mr. Salve, let me ask you this. What about the government's argument? Because I haven't asked you this. Again, I go to the same point. Mr. Jaitley linking this to national security, national interest, and I'll refer you to Rudy's remark as well. He says, we don't want India to become an ISIS-like state. Now, personally, really, it's a bit of a stretch, but what are your thoughts?
Well, those are the arguments which have always been advanced for upholding the Prevention of Terrorism Act, and that was upheld by the Supreme Court.
Well, as one of the legal luminaries of the country, Mr. Salve, before I go to Mr. Nalpat, realistically, and this is a question that's coming from me, realistically, do you see this bill as trampling the rights of individuals, even in the chance they're actually guilty of committing a terror act? And I'm asking this subjectively, not getting into the debate of do terrorists deserve rights. I'm not even touching that with a barge pole. Let's restrict that to our objective opinion here.
See, I've had a serious issue with the provision always, not today, always had one very serious concerns with the provision which makes confessions to a policeman admissible. I mean, there was this story that there was a particular, maybe this story is completely fictional, but just to underscore the point, there was the story of a particular cop who used to say, this belt, I count this belt. So he used to say this belt is number 65, means this belt has extracted 65 confessions. This story is completely fictional, but just to underscore the point, there was the story of a particular cop who used to say this belt, I count this belt, so he used to say this belt is number 65, means this belt has extracted 65 confessions, you know. So confessions to the police, should they be admissible in evidence? That's a larger question. POTA made them admissible, MCOCA makes them admissible. Wiretapping, see, to wiretapping today frankly is a joke. The amount of wiretapping which goes on, I have filed this petition for Mr. Ratan Tata where the figures have come. Tata Tele alone gets, and it's not that large a service provider as Airtel and Vodafone, which are much, I believe, far more bigger consumer base. Tata Tele said in 1 year, they get 10 to 12,000 requests for wiretap from the government. So wiretap in India is become a joke. But having said so,
there's some problem with the audio, so we'll come back to you. Professor Nalpat, those are concerns flagged by Mr. Salve himself as well. Do you think those concerns aren't being addressed in the current form? Because ultimately, we are also talking about these particular points which are the bone of contention. Otherwise, nobody's arguing the need for tougher anti-terror laws.
Yeah, Athar, I simply want to point out that we have on the statute books for decades laws that are even more draconian than this particular law. For example, this narcotics and psychotropic drugs law, which is there in force. It's a draconian law which does not belong to any democratic country. Now, supposing somebody smuggles some kind of drug into your house or my house, and then the police come in and they're tipped off by the gangster who did the smuggling, I can tell you we'll be in jail for a very long time, as Mr. Salve can tell you, because the safeguards to the victim, if I may say so, that kind of a sting, are almost zero in that law. So Mr. Shergill needs to really understand there are plenty of existing laws in the country that are even more draconian than this Gujarat law, and start talking of repealing those laws. Now I want to point out one more fact. I quite agree with Mr. Salve about the police. You remember about 20 years ago there was a cryogenic engine, a huge thing about cryogenic engines and scientists, and many scientists were tortured into making confessions. Now we know that some external agencies manipulated that in order to block the Indian cryogenic engine program. So we need a special group of police who are trained only in counter-terror operations, and only this special group should handle this kind of case and should have this kind of power.
But in that case, where does the Gujarat anti-terror bill will lay then? If we need an organization like this, can the state police really handle more tougher laws?
Athar, I haven't really read that particular law, but I'd like to make one point. The only safeguard will be, frankly, public opinion. And here, for example, I was very disappointed that the existing government that is here today allowed 66A to continue, and in fact defended 66A, because you need freedom of speech, you need freedom of the internet, and these freedoms are essential to prevent misuse of law.
Jaivir, you want to come in here? I mean, you're still maintaining this is an ominous legislation. Your party's stance, of course, is as if tomorrow we're going to become a police state. Is there really a danger of that? Because governments like Karnataka, which is ruled by the Congress party, are very similar provisions. I have all the details here. Do you want me to go into it or not?
No, Athar, I'll make just 2 points to Mr. Nalpat and the spokesperson from the BJP. Each draconian law has left a cautionary tale. More of a reason we don't have another. Second, in this case, the God is also in the detail. Please, I am urging Mr. Vyas and Mr. Nalpat to give me one reason, they're beating around the mulberry bush, why the Unlawful Activity Prevention Act dealing with terrorists is not sufficient to deal with Gujarat when it is dealing with the entire India. I haven't heard that answer. Please enlighten me how this law is deficient, has loopholes, or is the reason there are activities going on in Gujarat which this law cannot deal with. I haven't heard any logical answer from either of them.
Okay,
so maybe
Mr. Nalpat will answer you, then Mr. Vyas. Professor Nalpat, here's your chance, then we go to Mr. Vyas.
I want to repeat what I said, that there is need for a national law that encompasses the entire state, and in fact encompasses the entire globe.
I'm telling you about.
No, but that particular national law is not enough. There needs to be a good national law in the whole situation, and until that law is there, individual states will start going in with their own laws.
No, if you heard that answer,
have you read that law, Mr. Nalpat?
I'm sorry?
Have you read that law?
The
what
Gujarat
it defines,
law, I have
how
not
does
read
it
it, I'm
deal
sorry.
with bail, how does it deal with charge sheet, how does it deal with evidence through interception as communication?
No,
How
I've
does it
already
deal with the
flagged
bail
that off, and
provision?
that is one of the concerns, no doubt, Jaivir, and you'll be kind enough to acknowledge that I pointed that out. If I can do it again if you want me to. But Mr. Vyas,
Of course.
let's respond to that first. Jaivir Shergill says there's no logical argument why Gujarat specifically
No,
would need a tougher law which can't handle. Yes.
I have very high regards for my friend Mr. Jaivir Shergill. I only have a problem with his doublespeak. If this was the logic, why the government of the day at the center recommended it to the President of India to approve Karnataka and Maharashtra laws? Were they not as knowledgeable as Mr. Shergill is? If you were blinking at it, now you are trying to take the shelter under the same. How far it is logical? And I do agree with Professor Nalpat that there is a need for a wider debate. I fully appreciate also the views expressed by both the learned lawyers, Mr. Tulsi and Mr. Harish Salve, that there is a need for a larger debate, and we must ensure that while we do not want to sacrifice the personal safety and the human rights, we also should not.
Let's get Jaivir's answer to that before I go to Mr. Salve and
with
Mr. Tulsi.
security
Let's get
in
Jaivir's
this
quick
country.
answer on that before I go to Mr. Salve and Mr. Tulsi. Respond to that.
Quick answer, no matter how attractive Congress's hypocrisy argument sounds, Makoka, Karnataka, please, in law, application of one law in state cannot be a rationale of its application to another state. Each state has to justify its own ground for applicability of
Okay,
that
let me
law.
ask you a
I'm
counter
sorry, that's how
question
the
then.
law
No, hold
works.
on. Jaivir, can I ask you a counter question before I move on to Mr. Nalpat and
course.
others? The point here is you're saying that, are you admitting, first of all, let me ask you this very directly and bluntly, are you admitting that previous laws passed by the Congress governments, including Tada, including Makoka, perhaps didn't really help, and ultimately that is why they were struck down by the legal system in the country? If you admit that, then I'll give you the locus standi to criticize this particular bill. Otherwise, you have none.
Atar, firstly, factually, as Mr. Tulsi told you, neither Tada was struck down by Supreme Court, neither was Pota. Pota was repealed by UPA. Tada lapsed in its natural time.
But the Supreme
Number
Court
one.
intervened in the
Number
last
two,
era
when
bill.
Makoka was passed, when Makoka was passed, it was the NDA central government President approved
Supreme
it
Court
under
upheld it.
Gujarat when it rejected it. I am saying upheld it. I am saying Supreme Court upheld it.
Okay.
Supreme Court upheld Tada, Supreme Court upheld Pota, Supreme Court held in Makoka. I am saying that. The question is not on competence. Question of rationale and requirement of Gujarat to have this law today. The
Okay, then let
argument
me
is
ask you-
Maharashtra has it, Karnataka has it.
Professor
They
Nalpat,
cannot be-
Then what is your problem with Gujarat?
That's what I'm coming to then. What exactly
Jaivir,
is
if
the
you are so
problem
right
with
in
the
all these
Gujarat
states,
bill?
what is your problem with
My
Gujarat?
problem, Mr. Vyas, with Gujarat is this. My problem is this. Are you telling me Gujarat is facing the same situation as Punjab did? As Maharashtra did in 1999?
That's the crux of the argument.
Are you
Hold on.
telling
That's
me
the crux of
unlawful
the argument
assembly
the Congress is
prevention act
making.
was not there?
Let me come in here. Let Mr. Vyas come in a bit. Mr. Vyas.
My dear friend, in that case you are forgetting, just a minute, Atar, in that case you are forgetting that almost all the three attacks on Mumbai, the landing point was Gujarat, or one way or the other Gujarat was involved in getting the people in. So Gujarat, if you...
Why did not Mr. Vajpayee listen to this argument?
It is
Why did
less,
the president not listen?
less
Why
fair.
are you not adhering to the president's advice? At least give the benefit of doubt of judgment.
No, there was
to your
a
own
reason I already
president.
explained. Why did Mr. Vajpayee's government and then your next
Mr.
government,
Abdul Kalam,
your
Ms.
UPA government
Pratibha
did not
Patil,
listen to
Mr.
it
Abdul
because the
Kalam, Ms. Pratibha
bias was
Patil.
Narendra Modi.
Okay, you know...
I will tell you three specific reasons, Mr. Vyas.
That is what
the
I'm
three
telling
reasons
Jaivir,
were.
that-
And
in the
two of them are
advice
precedents.
Clause
Is that
16
it? Three
of
specific
where
reasons, two of them are
the word
precedents.
shall should be
were
replaced with the word
blocked
may.
by Maharashtra High Court.
Atar, allow me to 10 seconds.
Yes.
I have the advice of the president in front of me. Three advices were: do away with the confession. Second, replace the word shall with may when it released to detention of 180 days. Third, the bail should be given after hearing the public prosecutor. Everything has been given a wish-wash away on the advice of the president. It was not the advice of the Congress.
See, okay,
What is the reason
recommendation.
of not listening to their own
No,
advice?
I agree with you, Mr. Vyas. Hold on. The recommendations made then were very clear. Delete clause 16. Clause 16 relates. Hold on.
President acts as per the advice of
No,
the
no,
Council
for
of
the benefit of the
Ministers.
viewers. For the people who are watching who don't know and who haven't read, recommendations made way back then were delete clause 16, which dealt with the confession made before a police officer being admissible in court. This is very important. Everyone should know this. Substitute the word may for shall, as Jaiveer has pointed out. Also, amend clause 24 to bring in conformity with section 43(3)(5) of the UAP Amendment Act. Clause 24 deals with the powers of the court to grant bail. My question now, Professor Nalpat, very quickly come in here before I go to Mr. Salve. You had a point.
Well,
To bring in conformity with section 43(3)(5) of the UAP Amendment Act, clause 24 deals with the powers of the court to grant bail. My question now, Professor Nalpat, very quickly come in here before I go to Mr. Salve. You had a point.
Well, my point is two. One is that times change and change very fast. Now, ISIS, for example, did not exist 2 years ago. And, 2 years later, we don't know what's going to happen. So the fact that an advice was given at one point in time is no reason why the same advice should be followed at a different point in time. Times are changed. Second point is that Gujarat has been free of communal violence for a considerable period of time. Now, this is not accidental. This is a result of policy. And I can tell you that I'm sure that Mr. Shergill will agree with me that, that it's important to continually have vigilance to ensure that this kind of state of affairs continues. But having said that, again, I'd like to say, Akhtar, I don't agree with this Gujarat bashing that's going on, but I do strongly feel that allowing the police force as a whole to exercise these rights and frankly using and going in for multiple state laws rather than a national law, I don't think these are optimal.
Okay, fair point there. Mr. Salve, at the heart of it then, we're coming closer to that particular consensus, I would say. At the heart of it, it's still a political issue in the country, isn't it? I mean, when the government of the day is in opposition, they will oppose the bill they have themselves passed and vice versa. And it goes on. I mean, the TADA was a Congress creation, also the stringent caveats in it were the Congress creation, weren't they?
Purely political.
All right, in one word, you say purely political, and we'll of course keep your word there. KTS Tulsi, you've been listening into all the debates for a very long time, all the views as well. I want to give you a whole minute to really sum this up for us in your view. You've already said you oppose the bill, but is it just, and be honest today, sir, is the opposition merely because a particular government in a particular state is bringing about a tougher, what they call the need of the hour bill, when similar laws have been passed? Of course there is apprehension about the misuse of it, and all terror bills of course should be scrutinized thoroughly, but do you agree with Professor Nalpat on the matter, at least, that when it comes to tackling terrorism, there is no one size fits all, but we need to have a more comprehensive national sort of a law to deal with it, rather than have a statewide sort of a difference and a different state and a different law in the country?
I think the national law already exists.
No, I'm talking about a tougher national law. I'm talking about a tougher national law than we have right now.
Comprehensively deals with the situation.
I'm talking about a tougher one. If the government wants a tougher one, they can try a tougher national law.
I want to say that extraordinary laws, there can't be tougher law than what has been approved by the Supreme Court. I say that extraordinary laws can only be for a limited duration and in specific environment where it calls for a tougher law. But you can't have a tougher law as a permanent piece of legislation in a state which does not at that time justify the existence of such a tougher law. And in this case, giving the power to the entire police force to intercept and then use it as evidence is something very dangerous. There is none of the recommendations of the Supreme Court given in TADA that before registration of the case, the permission of the Inspector General of Police must be taken. That's not there. Before filing the charge sheet, the sanction of the state government or the central government was necessary. That is not there. You see, in this case, the most draconian is that in a normal situation, you are giving the power to the police to decide as to whom to arrest, record a confession, put you in the cooler, and this is capable of gross misuse without the safeguards which were provided by the Supreme Court.
So let's talk
I don't
realistically
think
then.
the government
Now-
has even
now that
cared
we've
to
established
look at
the
those.
two
And this
and
this
against
bill,
state-
this bill,
Okay, Mr. Tulsi, now that we've
this bill,
clearly-
this bill, if adopted, if enforced, will be struck down.
Okay, I'm glad you said that because I was going there anyway. My point is, now that we've established the stated current positions on this particular Gujarat anti-terror bill, let's now look at the future, because clearly, Professor Nalpat, Arun Jaitley, who is a very important man in the government, clearly is going all guns blazing, saying that no way we are supporting this, we need this, and we're throwing the government's weight behind the state government's legislation. However, there is precedent here. Two presidents have already sent it back, deemed it too perhaps too harsh as well. And Pranab Mukherjee is as tough a president as they come. He's tough as nails. Ultimately, he has to go to him. It is going to him right now, as we understand. The first call really for the government would be to get it past the president. Do you see it happening?
Well, I really can't predict what President Mukherjee will do, except to say that he's an extremely seasoned and wise politician. And he has been in our political life for decades, and he has had an exemplary record in this political life. I simply want to say, Athar, that having regard to all the different points of view that have been expressed, I do believe that that it could be that some of these provisions need a relook. It could be some of these provisions need to be changed. And I would certainly share the view of Mr. Tulsi and Mr. Salve that you cannot leave the ordinary policeman with this kind of right. Otherwise, what's going to happen is a lot of very rich policemen who are going to mint money out of blackmailing, the way, unfortunately, other anti-terror laws were used for blackmail in the past in different states.
Okay, two quick comments from Mr. Vyas, and then we end with Javeed Shergill. Mr. Vyas, you still support it. You say this is the need of the hour. The consensus really, of course, is there are some provisions in this act, some clauses that are cause for concern. Perhaps the government should start by looking at them first, and then we can talk about whether Gujarat needs one right now or not.
I think, Athar, there is a need for the opponents also to look at these sections little more closely. You know, I'll qualify my statement by a simple example. There is something called a default bail. If you don't file a charge sheet in 90 days, the person automatically gets the benefit of a default bail. Now, in the present day situation, where terrorism and this kind of organized crime doesn't remain an activity within one state or within the purview or boundaries of one state only, it will take time for the police to investigate and file the charge sheet. Second thing, automatically it is not 180 days. From 90 to 180 days, it can be extended on request from the government pleader. So it is not the power of the police.
Okay, Javeed, we end with you. We'll give you the last word on this one.
Who will be
okay, Javeed, we give you the last word on this. After all, the Patriot Act was something that was implemented by the US government in the Bush era, and the entire country split down the middle there as well. Are we looking, as some activists would tell you today, some jurists and a lot of members of your political party, that this is a step towards a police state? Or would that be stretching it really? I'm asking you again, I've asked you 3 times already. Is your opposition to the Gujarat bill merely rhetorical?
Athar, absolutely not. And I urge Mr. Vyas, let not our political battle or their urge to satisfy their own ego create a Frankenstein, which people of Gujarat will repent it later and blame you. This is an absolutely draconian law. We have an existing law. It is a complete code. It deals with it. And God forbid Gujarat should never pass through that situation which Punjab passed through, that you need a draconian law like this. So please have a relook and a rethink.
All right. I think we discussed the pros and cons and everything else in between. Hopefully, I'm not sure that's possible, but we'll take a short break right now. Mr. Nalpat continues to stay with us. Javeed Shergill, many thanks for joining us on this one as well. We'll come back with debate number 2, and that, of course, is the